Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Barca Breakdown podcast. My name is Adam, and for the first time in Breakdown history, we're here without the use. Unfortunately, our work schedules don't always align, but don't worry. I convinced him to miss work on Saturday so he can be here for El Clásico. Normally, we would do everything together, but I have to admit something to you guys. I am just too excited about this game. I don't know how all of you are feeling, but I am getting nervous. I'm getting excited. The way really only El Clásico can make me. And so I thought we'd come on, and today we're just going to talk about, how big of a game this is, right? This could mean the winner is a favorite to win La Liga this season. After what we've come through as Barca fans, I can't think of a better result for Koeman's first year, for the year Messi has been through, for Dembele, Pedri, Elish, Frenkie, right, Ter Stegen, all of our players. What a moment it would be if we're able to come through and win La Liga this year. So today we're going to cover a little bit of a rewind to talk about the first Clásico of the year. Like many of you, it was a while ago, October 24th, and so we decided to go through it and see kind of how the team lineup for Barca may have changed in that time, as well as what pitfalls we fell into the first time we played against Real Madrid this season, and how we might be able to overcome them this year. I also want to talk about the biggest questions for the match, as well as what type of predictions I have for the team and the game. Right, so if we look back at the first Clásico of the year, if you remember, Barca had specifically had a very short preseason because of how late the Champions League went into the summer. We also had Ter Stegen and Umtiti injured at the time. And, more recently, when that first Clásico of the year came by, both sides had actually lost the previous weekend, with Barca losing 0-1 at Getafe, and Madrid had lost 1-0 to Cadiz, right? However, midweek of that same week, Barca did win 5-1 against a Hungarian team, and Real Madrid lost at home again to Shakhtar 2-3. So, after two home losses in a row, there was a lot of chatter about Zidane being on the hot seat, as they call it, and, whether or not a loss to Barcelona would cost him his job. And, at the time, I think I felt very positive about Barca's chances. I mean, I remember thinking that, okay, Real Madrid is in a little bit of a bad spot right now, and I thought that we would come out strong, especially at the time. If you remember, we had Coutinho healthy, we had Fati healthy, and, those two being healthy as compared to now really affected how Koeman had been doing the lineup back then, right? So Koeman had been favoring a 4-3-2-1, and that was in order to incorporate Frenkie de Jong and Coutinho in their preferred positions. And so Coutinho had often been playing as what you would call like a classic 10, right? Central attacking midfielder up front. And that, unfortunately left Barcelona with some choices to make in that first Clásico. And, kind of out of left field, Koeman decided to play Coutinho as a left winger. And for those of us who remember Coutinho's time as a Barca player under Valverde, Coutinho did not do very good on our team as a left winger. And so that kind of gave us some exposure on the right flank that would, lead to the downfall. So as we go into the game, right, we think about the big goals and the big moments from the game, right? 4th minute, let's be honest, right, we got punched in the mouth. Valverde, he found wide open spaces, right, where Benzema was able to make that pass to Valverde, who just purely sped past Busquets and Piqué and went forward to score the goal, right? Alba got caught up high in the midfield, and Lenglet had to move to the right side to cover. And so, our defense was really exposed, and I think it was an omen for where we were at that time in the league, where Busquets really wasn't in the form he is now, and where without that 3-5-2 structure we employ now, the team seemed to have a lot more issues in defense, right? Thankfully, in the 8th minute, we had what is, the classic Messi to Alba long ball, and Alba was able to cross it into Fati, who scored right away in that 8th minute and scored his first Clásico goal. A huge moment for all of us, right? I mean, we get punched in the mouth early by Valverde, and then Fati's able to come in and score, 4 minutes afterwards. We were feeling really good. And, that's part of what was so confusing about this game. I think a lot of why we lost the first Clásico came down to some coaching decisions by Koeman, where the game was there for us to win. Unfortunately, we just didn't make any subs in the right amount of time, right? So, we come into the second half. Lenglet, this was maybe the start of his different form for, the end of the winter and the early spring here, where he got a penalty on Ramos for pulling his jersey, and unfortunately, Sergio Ramos scored. And then in the 90th minute, again, we see wide open spaces for Vinicius to receive a pass from Modric. And right with Ter Stegen injured, Neto wasn't ready. He failed to hold on to the ball, and Modric was able to make a nice move and score on us. I think when you look back to that first Clásico, what I saw was that the big issue here is that we did not make any subs until the 80th minute, right? Which is 100% a coaching issue. I mean, it's hard to imagine at the current day of Dembele and Griezmann both being on the bench until the 80th minute, but back in that time in the season, that is what happened in this Clásico, and that's what I think really caused us to lose. I remember Yus and I watching the game live and thinking to ourselves in the 60th minute, 65, 70th minute, this game would be perfect for Dembele because, we were holding our own in that game until the penalty, and if we had made some more wise subs earlier in the game, I think that, could have turned the favor. When we think forward to the Clásico coming up this Saturday, I think, and I know Koeman in the last few months has shown more willingness to swap out players earlier, whereas, when the season began, he was not willing to do so. So I'm just hoping he learns from this first Clásico that he needs to make the substitutions when he needs them and not be afraid. And then, when the 80th minute came and Koeman made the substitutions, the big issue was he removed Busquets and didn't really put anyone in place to serve as a, defensive midfielder, right, which left us wide open for that Vinicius and Modric passing attack that led to their goal. And he only put on attackers in the 80th minute, which, really seemed to make our team very desperate and not have any sort of defensive solidity, giving them a huge chance to score, right? So as we transition into thinking about this Clásico and kind of what we have to work with and what lessons to learn, as I said quite a few times, we need subs earlier in the game if we're going to win, right? I think the other big X factor, I think anyone who's looking at this game as a Barca fan has to know, the big X factor here is Ousmane Dembele, right? We really need him to come up huge. And, hey, look at his track record lately. Dembele has been scoring the big goals, right? You guys hear me on the podcast all the time and YouTube videos. I'm always talking about how I'm a huge Dembele fan, and I don't like the Dembele slander I hear all over. And he's scored a huge goal against Sevilla in the Copa del Rey. He scored a huge goal against Sevilla in La Liga. He scored the game-winning goal in the 89th, 90th minute this weekend against Valladolid, right? So I'm hoping Dembele can really come up huge and be the catalyst we need to break through a Real Madrid backline that does not include Varane, does not include Ramos, or does not include Carvajal, right? So at the same time that Dembele is our offensive X factor, one of our X factors is, kind of you don't want to say fortunate about injuries, but Real Madrid are without some of their strongest defensive players in Ramos, Varane, and Carvajal. And so we're hoping that Dembele can take advantage 100%, right? The other thing is that we don't have Fati anymore for this game, who impressed in the first Clásico, but another player who impressed in that first Clásico, who's performing very well lately, is Sergino Dest. And, with Vinicius coming and attacking on that left flank, I think we're really hoping that Dest will be able to provide some defensive, tracking and stopping him, a little bit of which we saw in the second PSG game against Mbappe from Dest. And, overall, depending on how we line up, it looks like Mingueza might be back there behind Dest to provide that, last line of defense in the 3-5-2. And so I'm really hoping that, Dest and Mingueza can keep Vinicius in check, because Vinicius is going to be the X factor for Real Madrid. And we just saw midweek Vinicius perform extremely well against Liverpool, scoring 2 goals in their 3-1 victory. And so Vinicius is the man we need to stop, along with, of course, Karim Benzema, who has been on fire lately for Real Madrid and scored a lot of late winners and goals to tie the game for Real Madrid. And so, I'm really hoping that we can keep both of them in check, which will really depend on, how much we're able to keep Vinicius in check on the sidelines. I think another big X factor for this game is Pedri, right? Of course, in the last few months, we've all come to know Pedri as a player who we can depend on and who has a really great relationship with Messi. What's going to be really important, though, is that in that first Clásico, Pedri was invisible and had very little time on the ball, right? I think that was, one of the biggest critiques I and a lot of people had about Pedri in that first game is he went a little bit visible. And when we look at the PSG versus Barca first leg, the same thing happened, right? It seemed like in the big moment, Pedri, who's very young, uh, was not ready for the moment and wasn't ready for such a big game. And who can blame him, right? I mean, no one's sitting here saying, oh my God, a teenager should be able to step into the biggest nights in Europe and succeed. However, what we are hoping for is that he has been able to get that experience in the first Clásico, in some of these big Copa del Rey games that have gone to extra time, the PSG games, right, home and away, and so hopefully he's gotten some experience under his belt that he will be able to ride through the nerves he experiences and come up with a big game, and hopefully Koeman will put us in the right formation so that we will give Pedri the chance to really thrive and show us why he has been so impressive this whole season. I think, and then on top of that, right, not only must we keep Vinicius in check, but we also need to really stop crosses from Real Madrid. This is kind of how we segue into a talk about, well, what is the formation going to be and who do we expect to line up, right? The big X factor everyone's been talking about this week is Gerard Piqué healthy? And if he's healthy, should he play? And I don't think that's an easy answer, right? Because we had Piqué come back, I believe, against PSG in the first leg, and then he got injured that same game, and then he came back against Sevilla, and he scored the header in like the 92nd minute to take it to extra time, and then, got injured after that game. So Piqué, I'm honestly in favor of us resting him. I don't think it's critical he's in this game when he's injured, right? Of course, Gerard Piqué, if he's healthy, is someone we need to be there and to be one of our team captains and give confidence to our back line. However, we've been coasting a little bit here without him, and by no means are we a better team without Piqué. But if he's not fully fit, if he has pain in his knee, which is the big news, and some of the reporting we're hearing is that for Piqué to play, he will have to get an injection in his knee in order to be fit. With all these things kind of up in the air, I really think we should not risk him. Right. So then you think, okay, well, if Piqué is not available, then, and we're assuming here we're going to play a 3-4-3, 3-5-2. The big question is, who will the three at the back be, right? I mean, I think you can slot in Lenglet. And then the question is, well, is it going to be Araujo and Mingueza? I think that's probably our best back line. I mean, Araujo has not had a lot of games in a row here where he's starting. He came in against Valladolid for the last 30 minutes for Mingueza, and a lot of people, including myself, are reading into that to think, okay, Koeman's trying to get Araujo ready so he can come out strong and he can hopefully push around Benzema and not, let him get any headers on the ball from any crosses in this game. But the other thing that's been working for our team a lot lately is we've been having Frenkie de Jong in the back three, right? So we might have Lenglet, Frenkie, and then Mingueza. And so that, I think, is the big question here, because if we move Frenkie up to the midfield, then it looks like we'll have Lenglet, Araujo, and Mingueza in the back, and then we would need to just have Dembele and Messi up front, up top. And, I think there's no doubt about it. If you try to figure out which attackers we need up front, it's Messi and Dembele. They've been the core of our offensive production this year, and they have really been, performing wonderfully. The question is about Griezmann, right, and whether or not he is critical for us to play. And, are we going to be better off with Frenkie in the midfield or Frenkie as a center back, and, how that impacts Griezmann? I'm of the opinion that we should play Frenkie in the midfield. I think, Kroos, Casemiro, and Modric are really running with a lot of confidence, especially because they just had a huge game in Europe against Liverpool, right? And, they got a lot of press. And, as much as reading into press and hype is not always a good indicator of how people are feeling, these players do know big Champions League nights, right? They are a star-studded name who've won 3+ Champions League, and they are feeling themselves. They're feeling really good right now, and I just think that if we don't have Frenkie in the midfield, it might leave us exposed, and it might also leave, Kroos and Modric with maybe a little bit too much time on the ball. And so it's going to be critical for us to have Frenkie in the midfield as a, anchor and someone who can orchestrate the offense and push us forward. And, there have been a few moments throughout the season when Frenkie, as one of the back three, we've seen him show that he's not entirely comfortable there and that he hasn't played most of his career as a back three. And so I would rather have him in the midfield where he feels comfortable and someone to try and counterbalance the Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro midfield rather than have him in the back line where he might be exposed by, Vinicius or Benzema. So I think overall what we're going to see is Lenglet, Araujo, Mingueza. Then we'll see Dest, Pedri, Busquets, Frenkie, Alba, and then we're going to see Messi and Dembele up front. And, overall, I think that's a lineup I'm very excited about. I mean, if you asked me 3 weeks ago before the international break, I think myself, along with almost all other Barca fans, are saying, hey, this is our game to take. We're in the best form in Europe. No other team has gone undefeated across, all the big leagues in Europe in 2021. This is our time to shine. But Real Madrid have hung around strong. They have, squeaked by some games that, frankly, as someone who's seen them, I have not been impressed with them at all this season. But, hey, you have to give something to them for, coming up with late big goals. And you can never count them out, right, in a one-game, essentially final, as the memes often go about Zidane always talking about every game as a final. But, they, I didn't think that Real Madrid was going to win the first Clásico, and I kind of got egg in my face with how that turned out. So, I'm confident, but I'm also a bit cautious, and I just want to make sure that Koeman sets up the team to succeed, and we need Pedri to really come out and shine. And other than that, I think the team is coming into this game with a lot of confidence. Though Valladolid was a game where we had a hard time scoring, and players, including Messi, didn't look particularly sharp. I mean, that's to be expected after a 2-week break. And so, I expect Dembele and Messi and Dest and Busquets to come in and play a really good game. Especially our more seasoned players, some of our captains, they know how big this game is. They know that we have an opportunity here to, frankly, steal a league that really should not have been ours, as we discussed in, our podcast/YouTube episode 2 episodes ago about the last 10 La Liga games. There are a lot of reasons why we thought we would never be in this position, and we're so close to coming in big and winning that La Liga title. And so, you know what, guys? Going into the game, I think we're going to win 3-1 this time. Let me know in the description what you guys think. As always, please follow us on YouTube. Please give us a subscribe. Please like the video and let us know what you want us to cover next, or your thoughts and opinions about Barca for the rest of the season, this Clásico, any players you want. And we are so excited to talk to you guys after the game on Saturday. Have a nice day.